Welcome to Roughing It with Ruth, the channel where everything is a bit rough around the edges. In this video, I'm going to show you all of the campsites that I could find that were reasonably priced and had availability in winter, less than an hour from Pretoria. Just a note, because I know someone is going to wonder about this. None of these campsites are sponsoring me. They didn't give me a free stay. I booked with them as a normal client. I paid the same way that anybody else would. So I'm not getting paid in any way, and there's no agenda behind this video. I am just giving you my experiences of staying at these campsites. So first up is Soma Nature Reserve, which has camping and it also has other types of accommodation. I will put a link to Somabula's website if you want to check them out. We got to Somabula fairly late. I think we arrived here about 5:30. And then we had a very delicious supper of nachos and we had a little fire going. And the plan is to have a little bit of a hike or trail run tomorrow morning. Good morning. So we had quite a nice night. It is very cold at the moment. My watch told me this morning that it was -3 and everything is covered in ice. The car is covered in ice. The fly sheet of the tent is covered in ice. The dustbin is covered in ice. The picnic table is covered in ice. But Somabula itself was actually really, really nice. There's this wonderful little fire pit where you can make a fire, and they've got a braai grid and a spade for moving coals around, and there's a dustbin, and there is a cold water tap at the site, and hopefully it's going to heat up a little bit, and Ralph is going to go for a run and I'm going to go for a short little hike. So I forgot to mention that the campsite that we're staying at Somabula is one of the communal ablution campsites. So there are 2 toilets and 2 showers and 1 wash-up area, and that serves like a couple of campsites. But if you do want a private ablution just for your campsite, you can also book that. It's just slightly more expensive. So there is a 3 kilometer, a 7 kilometer and a 12 kilometer trail at Somabula. I am doing like a kind of modified version of the 3 kilometer, just adding on a little bit of extra distance. So Somabula is only about 40 minutes from where I live in Pretoria. It's actually in Cullinan, but despite the fact that it's so close by and very accessible for like a day trip, you really actually do feel like you've gotten out of the city. It's like huge, big, wide open nature reserve with animals, and it's quite peaceful here. So there's also no electricity at the toilets or the shower and wash up area, although they do have electrical lights for being able to see when you're showering and going to the bathroom. There's no plug point, so you can't like charge up anything. But because of that, I feel like this campsite is best suited for someone who is wanting a bit more of a rustic kind of semi-wilderness experience, which is definitely, that's right up my alley. But if you're looking for something a little bit more comfy, then this campsite might not be for you. So we are staying at Nkwe Pleasure Resort at their campground, and it's quite a different campground to Somabula, where we just came from. My feeling is that Nkwe is geared more towards sort of families and more socialization. The campsites are closer together and there's a lot more amenities. Like the campsite is very well lit. There's power points at every single campsite. You do have to pay additional money for electricity. There's water at every campsite. There's a little place to make fire with an adjustable grid for cooking. The ablution blocks are like a proper building with a lot of toilets and a lot of showers and even 1 bath. This is the wash-up area, which is in between the male and female ablution blocks. You can see there's several sinks. They even have drying racks. There is a washing machine and a freezer. Very, very nice little area for the campsite. And the lady who greeted me when I came in here was extremely friendly and very concerned about us getting cold, which luckily we had enough gear that we didn't get cold, but she was very, very nice. And you can also come here just as a day visitor to see their waterfall or swim in the pool below the waterfall. There is also a swimming pool in addition to that waterfall. And it's very, very pretty around here. We're actually doing right now the Anglo-Boer War historical hike, which is kind of up in the hills just across the river. And it's lovely. I think it's a fairly short hike. I will put on the screen what the distance ends up being, but it's a very, very nice little stroll through the nature here. So if you're looking for a campsite that's very close to Pretoria, very accessible, has all of the amenities that you could possibly need, and is a good place to bring families, then I think this is the one for you. Right, we're on to the next campsite, which is Tuana Backpackers Lodge, I think it's called. And it's also very close to Pretoria. From where I live, it was like just under 30 minutes to get here. So also very conveniently located. And they also have other styles of accommodation, like little backpackers huts and various things. I had a fantastic night at Tuana Backpackers Lodge last night. I must say that because it is so accessible, you don't have to go on a dirt road at all, which is wonderful, but it does mean that you do hear a little bit more traffic noise because it is fairly close to two tar roads, Boschkorp Road and the Linwood Road extension. And I thought that that might keep me awake, the traffic noise, but it was actually 100% the opposite. It was like a white noise machine, and I had one of the best sleeps ever. So I don't know, maybe I'm just too much of a city girl and the traffic like lulls me to sleep, but I actually really, really enjoyed my night last night. There's no designated campsites here. You just pitch your tent wherever you prefer, and in a lot of ways that's quite nice, because depending on the conditions and what you're wanting out of a campsite, you can just put your tent in the area that suits you. There's obviously not like a set up braai area and a tap and everything at each campsite, but there is water here, there's an ablution block, and there is a portable braai that you can ask them to use if you do want to braai. There's also like a communal cooking area with a fridge and a sink and some tables and chairs and things like that. And overall, it feels very much like a backpacker's accommodation. The one other thing that I will mention is that there are dogs here on the property. The owner's dogs run around, which is great from a security perspective, but if you're really scared of dogs or you have a problem with dogs, then this might not be the campsite for you. The next place that we are camping is Esen Nature Reserve. So Esen Nature Reserve is about an hour away from Pretoria, and the reason that the time is a little bit longer than you might expect for the distance away from Pretoria is because the last 20 kilometers to Esen Nature Reserve is on a dirt road, but that dirt road is fine to travel by a normal non-4x4 car, provided that it hasn't rained. If it has been raining a lot, then I would definitely phone Esen Nature Reserve just to double check that the access with a normal car is still possible. The campsite itself has an ablution block. Unfortunately, while the ablution block was really clean and it had both baths and showers and toilets, there was no hot water and no electricity, so the lights were not working. Luckily, we all did have headlamps, and the ablution block for some of the permanent tents a little bit further up did have hot water. Each little campsite has a braai area with a grid where you can make a fire to cook, and there are also some taps in the campsite where you can get water. There are no benches or tables, so if you want somewhere to sit or a table to prepare food on, then you must bring that with you yourself. Out of all of the campsites featured in this video, Esen also has the longest hiking trails. There's a 21-kilometer yellow hiking trail, there's a 15-kilometer green hiking trail, and a 5-kilometer blue hiking trail. The 15-kilometer, while fairly long, is not too challenging, but the 20-kilometer does have a section near the river where you go up and down some rocks that is fairly technical. So if you're looking for a hike for training for something a bit bigger, then the 21-kilometer at Esen is a great choice. There's also a swimming pool near the reception area, and there is a children's playground with a small little putt-putt course for the kids as well. There's quite a lot of wildlife at Esen Nature Reserve, which is really nice, especially if you are bringing foreign tourists to South Africa. That's often quite a draw card. So we're staying at a place called Riverside Paradise, which is again just outside of Cullinan. It took us about 45 minutes to get here, so slightly further than Soma, which was also near Cullinan. And this place is incredible. We actually originally booked TS1, Tent Stand 1, but when we got here we realized that the surface is sand, like dirt, and we didn't particularly want to pitch our tent on that. But luckily, once again, we are the only people in the campsite. So the incredibly kind member of staff who met us when we arrived, he just told us we could take any tent stand and went and showed us some of the group stands that are a bit bigger, that have grass. So we just moved to a different stand where there's grass. And I mean, honestly, every single tent stand is beautiful. We've also got one of the dogs that live at the venue that's walking with us on the hiking trail. Her name is Sky. And very unusually, this Riverside Paradise venue is actually pet friendly. You pay 30 Rand per dog per night, and you can bring your dog with you. There are a few restrictions about like aggression and chasing things and so on. We're back at our campsite. The tent is all set up, and very kindly the staff member that greeted us actually brought a table and 2 chairs here to the campsite. There's also a dustbin and a fire kind of pit. I don't know what you call that, like a fire cage for like a social fire. And then there's also a braai. Although the campsite that we're staying at does not have electricity, there is in this kitchen area a fridge that you can put things in, and a freezer and a microwave and a kettle. So this is the women's ablution block. There's a toilet over there with toilet paper, a second toilet, and then there's a bath and a shower over here. And I must say, this is by far, hello Sky, one of the cleanest ablutions that I have ever seen in a campsite. This is really spotless. So the one thing that I will say about the ablutions and the campsites at Riverside Paradise is that it is a little bit of a walk, maybe like 120 meters or so from the campsite to the ablution block. So if you need to go to the loo at night, just keep a headlamp handy so that you can navigate that little path. But it's a very flat, easy path to follow. It's not like you have to go rock climbing in order to get to the toilet. I am so sad to be leaving Riverside Paradise, but we do have one more campsite to check out in this video. I'm just going to talk a little bit more quietly because we are at Theist Campsite in Gauteng Nature Reserve, and this campsite actually seems to be quite popular. It's the first campsite that we've gone to that has quite a few other people. There's motorhomes and caravans and even some other people camping in ground tents the same as us, so I just don't want to disturb anybody else. Theist is inside the Gauteng Nature Reserve, which is a Big 5 nature reserve, and it is unfenced, so you are just exposed to the animals. And the woman did warn us that, you know, you do have to be careful walking around at night. I realize that maybe not every person in the world knows what a Big 5 game reserve is. South Africa has obviously a whole lot of different wild animals, and the sort of most famous of them are the Big 5, which is elephant, rhino, Cape buffalo, leopard, and lion. I'm missing the most obvious one. So Big 5 nature reserves have all of those animals in them, in addition to other animals as well, and those Big 5 can be really dangerous. The ablution blocks, both Ralph and I have been incredibly impressed by how very, very clean they are. There's also a scullery area for washing your dishes, and there's even a little laundry area that has a washing machine, and that is an additional fee to use that you can pay at reception. Reception is just this little hut at the entrance to Tourist, and they also sell a few small sort of snacks, and I think they sell some wood and things like that at the little shop as well. There's several different types of campsites here. You can choose where you want to camp, and this was also the only campsite in this video where I could book and pay online. I didn't have to submit a request or contact someone to book. I could do everything online, which was very convenient. The Theist Campsite is actually quite close to one of the gates of the Dino King Nature Reserve, the Ndlovu Gate, which meant that even though there was quite a lot of traffic for us yesterday, we only took 45 minutes to get here, which is great, despite the last little bit being on a dirt road. However, it does also mean that at the campsite itself, you can still hear the traffic. And again, this actually didn't really bother me. I ended up having quite a good night's sleep, but that is just something that you should be aware of. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you would like to see more from me, then you can click on my channel name to see videos that I've made in the past, or you can subscribe to my channel to see videos that I'm going to make in the future.